Just imagine just $10 for a basket that can easily feed your family for 6 months. While the whole world is digging up vegetable gardens, one simple method produces 5 times as many potatoes from the same area. Researchers from the International Potato Center in Peru have confirmed that vertical growing increases yield by 40%. The ancient Incas knew this secret 8,000 years ago, but modern agriculture has forgotten it. 20 kilograms of potatoes from a plastic basket seems impossible until you understand the biology of stolons. An Idaho agronomist accidentally rediscovered this technique while experimenting with containers on his balcony. The harvest was so unexpected that he repeated the experiment 7 times in a row. Each time, the results outperformed traditional garden beds using 10 times less space and effort. After 90 days, one basket produces 15,000 calories of prepared food. Now you will learn every step of this method without skipping a single step. If you're here, it means you either don't have a garden, are tired of digging, or understand the value of potatoes as a basis for food security. Perhaps all 3 factors at once. According to the FAO, more than 50% of the world's population lives in cities with limited space to grow food. Traditional potato farming requires large areas, hard labor, and produces unpredictable results. You spend weekends digging, hilling, and weeding, and in the fall you dig up a measly 20 tubers per square meter. However, potatoes produce more calories per hectare than wheat or rice when grown intensively. The laundry basket method solves each of these problems at once. No garden beds, no digging, no weeds. You get a portable growing system that fits on your balcony and produces restaurant-grade potatoes in 3 months. The main benefit is control over every aspect of the plant's growth. Soil temperature, drainage, nutrition, lighting, all this can be fine-tuned. In open ground, you depend on the weather and soil conditions on the site. The basket method is based on one biological fact. Potatoes grow not on roots, but on underground stems. Each time you cover the stem with soil, the plant will produce new tubers along that buried area. Traditional planting in rows buries the stem only once. The basket allows you to bury the stem 3, 4, even 5 times as the plant grows. You are literally multiplying the tuberization zone in the same space. Imagine a multi-story building instead of a single-story building on the same area of land. The basket itself creates conditions that are unattainable with soil planting. Holes in the walls provide air pruning for roots, preventing root curl and creating a more efficient root system. The drainage is ideal, which eliminates rotting from waterlogging. The dark plastic surface warms the soil faster in the spring, allowing you to start planting 2 weeks earlier than usual. The raised position makes monitoring, watering, and maintenance easier. When it's time to harvest, you simply tip the basket over and harvest without a single damaged tuber. Temperature control becomes your advantage. Potatoes form tubers best when the soil temperature is between 15 and 21 degrees Celsius. In a basket, you can move the plant for optimal light or shade in hot weather. Potatoes belong to the nightshade family under the Latin name Solanum tuberosum, domesticated about 8,000 years ago in the mountains of modern Peru. The Incas understood a secret that modern agronomy would only rediscover in the 20th century. Tubers are formed on special underground shoots called stolons. Stolons differ from roots in that they carry the genetic program for the formation of new plants. When the stolon is kept in darkness and in contact with soil, its tip begins to thicken and accumulate starch, turning into a tuber. One stolon can produce 1 to 5 tubers depending on conditions. The critical factor is the length of the stolons located underground. The American Journal of Potato Research published data showing a direct correlation between stolon elongation and tuber density. The greater the underground length of the stem, the more points of tuberization. Light is the main enemy of this process. When stolons are exposed to light, they stop forming tubers and begin to develop as normal green shoots. This is why hilling is so important. It keeps the stolons in the dark. The plant invests photosynthetic energy into underground reserves only when it is confident that these reserves are in a safe, dark environment. The basket method uses this biological feature as efficiently as possible. European row planting techniques developed in the 18th century to mechanize agriculture rather than to maximize yield per unit area. Farmers sacrificed productivity for the convenience of tractors and plows. A traditional bed will give you 12 to 18 centimeters of buried stem after 1 or 2 hillings. A basket of 50 to 60 centimeters high allows you to create 60 to 75 centimeters of buried stem through repeated hilling. This means 3 to 4 times more tuberization zones on the same plant. The math is simple. More stolons equals more potatoes. Traditional growing depends on the quality of the soil on the site, which you have no control over. Clay soil retains water and causes rotting. Sandy soil dries out too quickly. In the basket, you use the perfect soil mixture from day one. Harvesting shows a striking difference in methods. You dig in the ground with a shovel, inevitably damaging some of the tubers and losing small ones. Research from the University of Idaho shows that when harvesting by hand, up to 20% of the harvest is lost due to tool damage. The basket turns cleaning into a holiday of discovery. The tubers are distributed over the entire height of the soil column in layers like treasure in a pirate's chest. You simply empty the contents and collect clean, undamaged potatoes. Holes in the sides of the basket create the phenomenon of aerial root pruning, discovered by Cornell University researchers in the 90s. When a root reaches the hole and comes into contact with air, the root tip dies, causing the plant to develop a more extensive root system inside the container. A dense network of small roots absorbs nutrients more efficiently than several long roots. Drainage through the bottom holes prevents stagnant water, which is the #1 cause of potato death in containers. Excess moisture creates anaerobic conditions under which putrefactive bacteria develop. The basket automatically removes excess water, maintaining optimal soil moisture. The material of the basket plays a role in temperature conditions. Dark plastic absorbs solar heat during the day and warms the soil faster than open ground. In the spring, this gives an advantage of 2 to 3 weeks to start the growing season. In summer, the same dark surface can create overheating, so the basket can be easily moved to partial shade or wrapped in light material. The portability of the basket opens up possibilities not available in permanent garden beds. Threat of freezing? Move the plant to a shelter. Too hot? Move to the shade. Are you moving? You take the harvest with you. The round shape of the basket uses space more efficiently than rectangular containers. The roots grow evenly in all directions from the center, without dead corners characteristic of square containers. USDA research has established a critical fact. Potato tuber formation stops when soil temperatures exceed 25 degrees Celsius. In traditional garden beds, you have no control over this parameter and often lose weeks of productive growth in the summer heat. The basket turns temperature from an uncontrollable factor into a controllable tool. The dark surface of the basket acts as a solar collector in the spring, warming the soil 3 to 5 degrees above the surrounding soil. This allows potatoes to be planted 2 weeks earlier than traditional times, giving the plant additional time to develop. Early planting is especially important in northern regions with short summers. In summer, the benefits reverse. When the soil beds overheat and stop tubering, you can move the basket to partial shade or insulate it with reflective material. Some gardeners use white cloth or foil to wrap baskets on hot days. The humidity inside the basket remains more stable due to the protection of the soil from direct evaporation. Mulching the top layer with straw or grass clippings creates additional insulation and retains moisture. The effect is similar to natural forest cover, under which the soil remains cool and moist. In autumn, the basket allows you to prolong the growing season, protecting plants from early frosts. Simply covering or moving to a protected location can provide an additional 2 to 3 weeks of growth. One properly managed basket produces between 8 and 15 kilograms of potatoes per season, which is equivalent to 12 to 15,000 calories of prepared food. For comparison, this amount of calories provides food for an adult for a week or a family of 4 for 2 days. This is real food security from an area of less than 1 square meter. The International Food Organization confirms that potatoes produce more calories per unit area than wheat, rice, or corn when intensively grown. 1 kilogram of potatoes contains about 800 calories plus vitamin C, potassium, and complete protein with all the essential amino acids. In the context of survival, these numbers become critical. Current supply chain disruptions and rising food prices are making home food production a necessity rather than a hobby. A basket of potatoes costing $30 of materials can replace $150 to $200 worth of groceries from the store. Compare with other container crops. Tomatoes produce 3 to 5 kilograms per plant, but this is 90% water. Potatoes are concentrated energy that can be stored for months without being processed. One harvest can feed you until the next season. The scalability of the method is impressive. 10 baskets on a balcony or in the yard can produce 1.5 centners of potatoes, providing a family with a staple product for the year. This is a level of self-sufficiency unattainable by traditional methods without large plots of land. A standard plastic laundry basket with perforated sides and bottom forms the basis of the system. Avoid solid baskets without holes. You want drainage and air exchange. The height of the basket should be at least 45 centimeters, optimally 50 to 60 centimeters. Most standard baskets fall in this range and cost between $8 and $15. The quality of the basket matters for many years of use. Cheap dollar store versions will crack after a season under the weight of wet soil. Choose strong models made of thick plastic that can withstand 60 to 80 kilograms of filled substrate. The potting mix requires 2.5 to 3 cubic meters of quality potting soil per basket. Never use garden soil or black soil from open ground. It is too heavy and gets compacted in containers. What you need is a potting mix with perlite or vermiculite for aeration. Seed potatoes represent a critical element for success. Store-bought potatoes are treated with growth inhibitors to prevent sprouting and may carry hidden diseases. Certified seed costs $12 to $18 for 2.25 kilograms and is guaranteed to be pathogen-free. Fertilizers for potatoes should be balanced in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Organic options like 5-5-5 or 10-10-10 work great. Compost, vermicompost, or slow-release pellets for container growing are also suitable. The difference between store potatoes and seed potatoes determines the success or failure of the entire project. Plant pathology studies show that certified seeds reduce disease incidence by 70% compared to food tubers. This is not a marketing ploy, but a matter of the biological safety of your crop. Warehouse potatoes in stores are treated with chlorprothum or other germination inhibitors, which block cell division in the eyes. Even if such tubers germinate, the plants develop poorly, bloom late, and produce a meager harvest. Chemical residues accumulate in new tubers. Seed potatoes undergo multi-stage certification, including testing for viruses, bacteria, and fungal infections. Mother plants are grown in isolated conditions under the control of government agencies. Each batch has documents about health and origin. For maximum yield, choose early and mid-early varieties that ripen in 70 to 90 days. Yukon Gold, Red Pontiac, and Kennebec perform well in containers. They are reliable, high-yielding, and store well after harvesting. Buy seed from specialist garden centers or trusted online suppliers. 2.25 kilograms of seeds will fill 3 or 4 baskets. Store the tubers in a cool, dark place until planting, avoiding temperatures below 4 degrees Celsius. Scientific research from the Rodale Institute proves that compost-rich substrates increase microbial diversity, which directly supports plant resilience and nutrient cycling. Potatoes in containers need a light, well-draining environment, which is completely different from heavy garden soils. The optimal mixture is 1 part peat moss or coir, 1 part quality compost, and 1 part perlite. This combination provides moisture retention, nutrition, and aeration to the root zone. Perlite creates air pockets that prevent the weight of water from compacting the substrate. Soil acidity should be between 6 and 7 pH for optimal nutrient absorption. Too acidic an environment blocks the absorption of calcium and magnesium, while an alkaline environment interferes with the absorption of iron and manganese. Most quality potting mixes have the correct acidity to begin with. Organic matter in the substrate acts as a slow-release fertilizer and structure improver. Compost releases nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium gradually throughout the season, reducing the need for additional feeding. Worm biohumus is especially valuable due to the high concentration of available microelements. Avoid substrates with added slow-release fertilizers if you plan to control the nutrition yourself. An unknown concentration can lead to an excess of nitrogen, which stimulates foliage growth to the detriment of tuber formation. Research at the University of Idaho has established a critical principle. Excess nitrogen retards tuberization, forcing the plant to invest energy in the leaf mass instead of underground reserves. Proper nutritional strategy requires an understanding of the developmental phases of potatoes and the corresponding needs in each period. At the initial stage of growth, the first 30 days after planting, the plant needs moderate nitrogen for the development of the root system and the first shoots. Excess during this period creates powerful tops, but weak stolons. Apply a balanced fertilizer with equal ratios of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The active tuberization phase begins after 40 to 50 days and requires a decrease in nitrogen while increasing phosphorus and potassium. Phosphorus stimulates the development of the root system and the transfer of energy to the tubers. Potassium improves the quality of tubers and their shelf life. The time for applying fertilizer coincides with hilling. Each time you add soil, mix a quarter cup of organic fertilizer with the new substrate. This method ensures an even distribution of nutrients throughout the root zone without the risk of burns. Liquid fertilizing is effective between hillings if plants show signs of starvation, yellowing leaves, or slow growth. Dilute the complex fertilizer according to the instructions and water until runoff appears from the drainage holes. Morning watering is preferable for better absorption. 2 weeks before the planned planting, remove the seed tubers from storage and carefully inspect each one. The ideal size for planting whole is from the size of a chicken egg to a tennis ball. Larger specimens require cutting into pieces, each of which must contain at least 2 or 3 eyes and weigh at least 50 grams. Cutting the seed material is done with a sharp, clean knife in one confident movement. Wipe the blade with alcohol between tubers to prevent the transmission of possible infections. Pieces that are too small do not have enough nutrients to get the plant off to a strong start. The healing process of the cuts is absolutely critical to success. Place the pieces in a single layer in a cool, dry, dark place with good air circulation for 24 to 48 hours. During this time, the sections dry out and form a protective crust that prevents the penetration of putrefactive bacteria and fungi. Historically, farmers dusted the cuttings with wood ash for added protection against infection. Ash contains potassium and creates an alkaline environment unfavorable for pathogens. A modern alternative is powdered sulfur or special fungicidal preparations for seed material. Sprouted tubers with sprouts 1 to 2 centimeters long give faster and more friendly germination. If the sprouts are larger than 3 centimeters, carefully remove all but the 2 or 3 strongest ones on each tuber. This concentrates the plant's energy into fewer shoots. The pre-germination technique known as chitting has been used by British gardeners since the 19th century to speed up the growing season in cool climates. The process activates the tuber's eyes before planting, giving the plant a 2 to 3 week head start over unsprouted material. Place the prepared tubers in a single layer in shallow boxes or trays with the eyes facing up. Ideal conditions: temperature 12 to 15 degrees Celsius, diffused light and humidity 60 to 70%. Direct sunlight causes the tubers to turn green and produce toxic solanine. After 7 to 10 days, strong, dark green sprouts 5 to 10 millimeters long appear. This is the optimal stage for planting. Weak, pale, elongated sprouts indicate a lack of light or too high a germination temperature. The energy distribution in the tuber follows the principle of apical dominance. The apical ocelli germinate first and suppress the development of the lower ones. To ensure uniform germination, remove the strongest shoots if they are twice as long as the others. Sprouted tubers require careful handling when planting. Fragile shoots break off easily, forcing the plant to waste energy on forming new shoots. Plant such material with sprouts up, covering it with soil carefully, without compacting it. Choose a permanent location for the basket before filling, as the filled container weighs 60 to 80 kilograms and moving becomes difficult. The plant requires a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily for maximum tuberization. More light means more potatoes. On balconies and patios, choose a location with morning sun and afternoon shade in hot climates. Potatoes tolerate high temperatures, but produce tubers more efficiently under moderate conditions. Provide access to water as containers dry out faster than open ground. Fill the bottom of the basket with 10 to 15 centimeters of soil mixture and level the surface. Space 3 to 4 seed potato pieces evenly over the area, avoiding crowding in the center. Proper spacing gives each plant room to develop its root system. Fill the tubers with another 10 centimeters of substrate, creating a total planting depth of about 15 centimeters. Deeper, the seeds may not germinate. Shallower, the tubers will turn green from the light. Lightly compact the surface with your palm, but do not tamp too hard. Water the planting thoroughly until drainage appears from the drainage holes. Initial watering activates germination and eliminates air pockets around the seeds. Note the planting date and place the basket in its final location. Now the wait for the first shoots begins. The first green shoots break through the soil 7 to 14 days after planting, depending on the temperature of the substrate and the quality of the seed material. When the soil temperature is 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, germination occurs faster. At lower temperatures, the process slows down, but the plants develop stronger. Initial seedlings appear as small green cones breaking through the soil surface. During the first 3 to 5 days, they unfurl into their first true leaves. This is a critical moment when the plant switches from feeding on tuber reserves to independent photosynthesis. Uneven germination is normal. Different parts of the seed may germinate within a week of each other. Do not rush to replant or add new tubers if some parts do not germinate immediately. Give them an extra 7 to 10 days to germinate. At the stage of first shoots, plants are especially vulnerable to waterlogging. Water sparingly only when the top 3 to 4 inches of soil becomes dry. Excess moisture during this period provokes fungal infections that can destroy young plants. Watch the color of the foliage. Healthy seedlings have a rich green color. Pale, yellowish leaves indicate a lack of light or nutrition. The purple tint to the leaves signals cold temperatures and usually goes away as the weather warms up. 2 to 3 weeks after germination, the most important phase begins, the first hilling. Hilling represents the secret weapon of the basket method and requires an accurate understanding of biological processes. When the plants reach a height of 15 to 20 centimeters above the soil surface, it is time for the first hilling. Many gardeners miss this critical moment and lose half of their potential harvest. Add 10 to 15 centimeters of fresh substrate, covering the stems so that only the top 5 to 7 centimeters of foliage remain above the surface. The procedure looks radical. You literally bury most of the plant. It is this apparent cruelty that triggers the formation of additional stolons. Buried sections of the stem quickly adapt to the new environment, developing adventitious roots and stolons along the entire buried length. Each newly formed stolon becomes the site of tuber formation. The math is simple. More stolons equals exponential yield growth. The second hilling is carried out after 2 to 3 weeks, when the plants again reach 15 to 20 centimeters in height. Repeat the procedure, filling in most of the new growth and leaving only the tops. With each hilling, the number of potential tubers doubles. The third and fourth hillings follow the same pattern until the basket is completely filled. A standard basket 50 to 60 centimeters high can accommodate 3 to 4 hilling cycles. Each missed cycle costs you 30 to 40% of the final harvest. This is not an exaggeration, but a mathematical pattern of stolen formation. At each hilling, mix a quarter cup of a balanced organic fertilizer with the added substrate. This method ensures the gradual release of nutrients directly in the area of formation of new stolons and roots. 10-10-10 granular fertilizers are ideal for this purpose. Avoid concentrating fertilizers in one place. Distribute them evenly throughout the entire volume of added soil. Local accumulations of nutrients cause root burns and uneven plant development. Thoroughly mix the fertilizer with the substrate before filling. Nitrogen fertilizers require special care in the later stages of the growing season. Research shows that excess nitrogen, once tuberization has begun, causes the plant to revert to leaf growth instead of accumulating starch in the tubers. Reduce the proportion of nitrogen in fertilizing after the second hilling. Slow-release organic fertilizers are preferable to mineral salts in container growing. Compost, vermicompost, or rotted manure release nutrients gradually, reducing the risk of overdose and burns. They also improve soil structure and water-holding capacity. Potassium fertilizing is especially important at the stage of tuber formation. Potassium improves the quality of potatoes, increases the starch content, and extends the shelf life of the crop. Wood ash makes an excellent source of potassium if you have access to clean hardwood ash. Container growing requires a fundamentally different approach to watering compared to soil beds. The basket dries out 3 to 4 times faster than exposed soil due to evaporation through the walls and drainage holes. In hot weather or strong winds, watering may be required daily. Check the moisture content by plunging your finger 5 centimeters into the substrate. If the soil is dry at this depth, it is time to water. Superficial drying is not a reliable indicator. There may be enough moisture left inside the basket for the roots. Irrigation technique affects the development of the root system and the uniformity of moisture. Water slowly, in small amounts, allowing the water to soak into the substrate. Rapid watering with a large volume creates drainage channels through which water leaves without moistening the bulk of the soil. Inconstancy of humidity causes physiological disorders of tubers. Alternating drought and waterlogging provokes cracking, hollowness, and deformation of potatoes. Research from agricultural universities documents a direct link between stable moisture and crop quality. Mulching the surface with straw, grass clippings, or compost reduces evaporation by 30 to 40%. Mulch also prevents the formation of soil crust and suppresses the germination of weeds. A layer of mulch 5 to 7 centimeters thick is optimal for most conditions. Container growing significantly reduces pest problems compared to soil planting, but does not completely eliminate them. The Colorado potato beetle remains the main threat. This pest has developed resistance to most insecticides and is capable of completely defoliating plants in a few days. Inspect the plants every 2 to 3 days, especially the undersides of leaves where females lay orange clutches of eggs. Hand collection of adult beetles and destruction of clutches remains the most effective control method on a small scale. Drown the collected beetles in soapy water or kerosene. Aphids appear in colonies on young shoots and suck out the juices of the plant. A strong stream of water washes away most individuals, and repeated treatments every 2 to 3 days destroy the breeding cycle. For widespread infestations, apply insecticidal soap or neem oil as directed. Fungal diseases are rare in well-drained containers, but late blight can attack plants in cool, damp weather. Yellow spots with a white coating on the leaves are the first sign of infection. Immediately remove affected parts and treat with copper-containing preparations. Disease prevention includes watering in the morning to dry foliage quickly, allowing air circulation around plants, and avoiding overwetting the substrate. Crop rotation in containers is carried out by replacing the soil mixture or growing other crops in the next season. 60 days after planting, you can begin selective harvesting of new potatoes without disturbing the plant's underlying growth. This method, called potato stealing, allows you to obtain fresh tubers while the rest of the crop continues to develop in the basket. Gently dip your hand into the soil from the edge of the basket and feel for small tubers about the size of a walnut. Pinch them off carefully without damaging the stolons or disturbing the root system. You can take 3 or 4 new potatoes from each plant at a time. New potatoes have thin, easy-to-peel skin and tender pulp with a high sugar content. These tubers are ideal for boiling whole, frying, or baking. They cannot be stored for long periods of time and should be used within a week after collection. After selective peeling, fill the holes with fresh substrate and water the plant. The root system quickly recovers, and the removal of several young tubers stimulates the formation of new ones. Some gardeners believe that early shelling increases the overall productivity of the plant. Do not get carried away with early harvesting. Take no more than 20% of visible tubers. The plant needs the bulk of developing potatoes to maintain energy balance. Excessive peeling weakens the plant and reduces the final yield of mature tubers. Potato flowering begins 60 to 70 days after planting and signals the active formation of tubers in the underground part of the plant. The flowers may be white, pink, purple, or lavender depending on the variety, but their color does not affect the quality or quantity of the tubers. Fun fact, flowers are not required to produce potatoes. Tubers develop independently of flowering and pollination since they represent modified underground stems and not fruits. Some varieties don't flower at all but produce excellent tuber crops. Removing flowers can redirect the plant's energy toward tuberization, although scientific evidence on this issue is conflicting. If you decide to pick off the inflorescences, do it carefully without damaging the foliage. Many experienced growers leave flowers as an indicator of plant health. The formation of green fruits after flowering is normal, but these berries are toxic and not edible. They contain high concentrations of solanine, the same alkaloid that makes green tubers poisonous. Remove fruit to prevent accidental consumption by children. The peak of flowering coincides with the plant's maximum need for water and nutrients. Monitor the substrate moisture especially carefully during this period. Drought stress during flowering can stop tuberization and significantly reduce yield. Determining the optimal harvest time is critical to obtaining potatoes with maximum shelf life and nutritional value. The first signal of maturity is yellowing and dying of the lower leaves, which begins approximately 80 to 90 days after planting, depending on the variety. When 75% of the tops have yellowed and begun to wilt, the plant transfers all its energy into the tubers, thickening their skins for long-term storage. Premature harvesting produces potatoes with thin skins, which are poorly stored and quickly wrinkle. Full maturity occurs when the above-ground part of the plant dies completely. The tops turn brown, dry out, and are easily separated from the stems. At this stage, the tubers reach their maximum size, starch content, and skin thickness. For long-term storage potatoes, wait an additional 2 weeks after the tops have completely died back. The tubers remain in the ground as if in a natural cellar, continuing to thicken the skin. Dry weather during this period is ideal. Rainy weather can provoke rot. Peel maturity test. Carefully dig up one test tuber and rub the skin with your thumb. Ripe potatoes have a dense skin that does not peel off when rubbed. If the skin peels off easily, give the plants another week to fully ripen. Determining the optimal harvest time is critical to obtaining potatoes with maximum shelf life and nutritional value. The first signal of maturity is yellowing and dying of the lower leaves, which begins approximately 80 to 90 days after planting, depending on the variety. When 75% of the tops have yellowed and begun to wilt, the plant transfers all its energy into the tubers, thickening their skins for long-term storage. Premature harvesting produces potatoes with thin skins, which are poorly stored and quickly wrinkle. Full maturity occurs when the above-ground part of the plant dies completely. The tops turn brown, dry out, and are easily separated from the stems. At this stage, the tubers reach their maximum size, starch content, and skin thickness. For long-term storage potatoes, wait an additional 2 weeks after the tops have completely died back. The tubers remain in the ground as if in a natural cellar, continuing to thicken the skin. Dry weather during this period is ideal. Rainy weather can provoke rot. Peel maturity test. Carefully dig up one test tuber and rub the skin with your thumb. Ripe potatoes have a dense skin that does not peel off when rubbed. If the skin peels off easily, give the plants another week to fully ripen. Stop watering a week before your planned harvest to allow the substrate to dry out and become crumbly rather than dirty and sticky. Dry soil greatly simplifies the separation of tubers and reduces the risk of mechanical damage during extraction. Choose a sunny day without precipitation for cleaning. Flip the basket onto the tarp or directly onto the grass in one decisive motion. All contents will pour out, soil, roots, and tubers distributed over the entire height of the substrate column. The spectacle is impressive. Instead of potatoes only at the bottom, you will find them in layers throughout the entire depth of the basket. Disassemble the soil mass with your hands, carefully removing the tubers and shaking off the soil from them. Do not use tools. They easily damage the peel and create entry points for infections. Dry soil is easily separated from the tubers by lightly shaking or wiping with a cloth. Sort crops by size and quality immediately upon harvest. Large, undamaged tubers are used for long-term storage, medium ones for current consumption, small ones for quick use within a month. Set aside damaged or diseased specimens separately for immediate consumption. The used substrate can be composted or applied to other crops after adding fresh compost. Rinse the basket, dry it, and put it away until next season. In warm climates, you can immediately prepare new plantings for the fall harvest. Freshly dug potatoes are covered with damp soil and require proper preparation for storage. Never wash tubers with water immediately after harvesting. Moisture disrupts the protective soil layer and creates conditions for the development of putrefactive bacteria. Limit yourself to dry cleaning with a soft brush or cloth. Place the tubers in one layer in a shady, ventilated place to pre-dry for 2 to 3 hours. Direct sun causes greening and the formation of toxic solanine, so use a canopy or shade trees. A light breeze accelerates the evaporation of surface moisture. A thorough inspection of each tuber allows you to identify hidden defects that are not noticeable in the soil. Look for soft spots, cracks, cuts, or signs of pest infestation. Even minor damage can lead to damage to the entire batch if stored together. The first sorting by size makes it easier to plan the use of the crop. Tubers with a diameter of more than 7 centimeters are ideal for baking. Medium 4 to 7 centimeters are universal for boiling and frying. Small ones less than 4 centimeters are best used whole for new potatoes. The second sorting by quality determines the shelf life. Ideal tubers without damage can be stored for months. Use specimens with minor defects first, damaged ones immediately. One spoiled tuber can infect dozens of healthy ones in a few weeks. Curing is a critical step between harvest and long-term storage that many gardeners skip, losing half their harvest over the winter. Place the sorted tubers in a single layer in a cool, dark place with a temperature of 15 to 18 degrees and a humidity of 85 to 95% for 10 to 14 days. A basement, garage, or screened porch usually provides suitable conditions. Avoid areas with sudden temperature fluctuations or direct sunlight. Good air circulation prevents the accumulation of moisture and the development of mold on the surface of the tubers. Important physiological changes occur during the curing process. Minor scratches and cuts heal, the peel thickens and becomes more resistant to mechanical damage. The moisture content of the tubers is stabilized, reducing the risk of wrinkling during storage. Check the tubers every other day, removing any that show signs of rot or disease. One diseased potato can contaminate the entire batch through fungal spores or bacteria. Affected tubers have soft dark spots, an unpleasant odor, or a white coating of mold. Once curing is complete, carefully remove any remaining dry soil with a soft brush, but do not wash with water. The tubers are ready for storage for long-term storage. Properly cured potatoes remain marketable for 4 to 6 months under optimal conditions. Ideal storage conditions for potatoes require a temperature of 4 to 7 degrees Celsius in complete darkness with a humidity of 90 to 95%. Traditional cellars in Eastern Europe created just such a microclimate, allowing families to store potatoes until the next harvest without loss of quality. Modern alternatives include cool basements, unheated garages, or even refrigerators for small quantities. Avoid storing near apples or other fruits. They release ethylene, which stimulates tuber germination. Onion vegetables are also undesirable as neighbors. Storage containers must allow air circulation. Cardboard boxes with holes, mesh bags, or wooden crates are ideal. Plastic bags create condensation and cause rotting. The storage layer should not exceed 30 to 40 centimeters to prevent pressure on the lower tubers. Monthly inspections allow problems to be identified at an early stage. Remove sprouted, soft, or green tubers immediately. Small sprouts can be broken off, but tubers with multiple long sprouts are best used for cooking. The temperature regime is critical. Below 4 degrees, starch turns into sugar, making the potatoes sweet. Above 10, active germination begins. Sharp temperature fluctuations cause moisture condensation and create conditions for the development of pathogens. Tall plants with few tubers indicate excess nitrogen and insufficient hilling. The plant spends energy on growing tops instead of forming underground reserves. Solution: reduce nitrogen fertilizing, increase the proportion of potassium and phosphorus, and ensure timely hilling every 2 to 3 weeks. Green tubers contain toxic solanine and are unsuitable for consumption. Greening occurs when developing potatoes are exposed to light. Reason: insufficient hilling or too low soil level in the basket. Hill up higher, making sure that all the tubers are in the dark. Small tubers indicate plant stress from irregular watering or lack of nutrients. Potatoes need constant moisture without sharp fluctuations from drought to waterlogging. Use mulch to stabilize moisture and fertilize with each hilling. Rotting of tubers is caused by waterlogging or poor drainage. Check the drainage holes in the basket. They should allow excess water to pass freely. Water only when the top 5 centimeters of the substrate is dry. In rainy weather, move baskets under cover. Maximizing yield requires quality seed material, a sunny location, timely hilling, uniform watering, balanced nutrition, and a full growing season. Each missed element reduces productivity by 20 to 30%. Following all the recommendations guarantees a harvest of 8 to 15 kilograms per basket. The laundry basket method is revolutionizing home potato farming, turning a $10 bin into a highly productive food production system. You've learned the science of stolon formation, the importance of certified seeds, multiple hilling techniques, and all the nuances from planting to storing the finished crop. Keys to success: use a quality potting mix, never skip hilling, maintain even moisture, provide plants with full sun, and allow tubers to fully mature before harvesting. Each of these factors affects the final result. 1 square meter of area can produce 15 kilograms of potatoes, which is equivalent to 12,000 calories of food. This is real food security, achievable on the balcony of a city apartment or in the courtyard of a country house. The method scales from 1 basket to dozens of containers. Your plan of action: buy a basket this week, order certified seeds based on planting dates in your area, prepare a quality potting mix and fertilizer. Plant according to local climate, hill up every 2 to 3 weeks, and harvest after 90 days. It's a proven technology for producing real food in a minimal amount of space. If I can do it, so can you. Share this method with those who may find it useful. Subscribe to the channel for new practical growing techniques. See you in the next issue. Grow smart, grow abundantly, and take control of your food.